Again, hello and welcome to What's Up AEC. Actually, my name is Ayman Ayoub. I am the Vice President of Marketing and Sales here at IronOrbit. In this series of roundtable discussions, we'd like to bring you interesting topics from the AEC space and why they're important to you as a professional in the AEC industry. And also give you a heads up on things, head your way in the future and how you need to be ready for them. This forum will bring together some of the greatest minds in AEC. We hope to do so in the AEC community, along with great minds working on the innovation, application of technology created, and to make your work more efficient, easier and more productive. This is the ultimate objective for this particular forum. Before we expand more on today's episode in particular, and the questions that we had for you guys, I'd like to take just a few moments for those guests to introduce themselves. They all know who's participating before we jump into the topics right away. So let's kick it off with Jimmy. Jimmy, want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Great to meet you guys. So my name's Jimmy Rotella. I'm a senior solutions architect with NVIDIA. My specific role focuses primarily on our vGPU product. However, actually prior to coming to NVIDIA, I came from the customer side. I had spent my entire career previously basically doing IT for architecture firms specifically. So very familiar with all the workloads, applications, and IT struggles that come along with some of those things, especially in a virtualized world. So great to meet you guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for the introduction over here. I also have Mike Albitz with us here on this conversation. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning. My name is Mike Albitz with MSA-Professional Services. We're a Midwest engineering architecture firm. I've been with our company for a little over 20 years now. Pretty much so done every job in our IT department. Same as Jimmy, seen pretty much so every challenge that possibly could be thrown our way and had to figure out our way around it.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Mike. I'm very excited actually to run a discussion with you today as well. And thank you for joining this particular roundtable. Tyler, good morning to you. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Sorry, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So, Tyler, I know that you also work for Alteg Engineers. You want to take a minute to introduce yourself and, what do you do for Alteg? How long you've been with these guys?
Yeah. Alteg Engineers is an engineering services across the U.S. We have about 12 locations. I'm enterprise applications and systems lead. Basically, what that means is long title for I sit between the business and IT, and I try to help facilitate, technology interaction between the business and better use for VDI fits right in that bucket. So I've been with Alteg for 2 years now, and one of those years we've rolled out IronOrbit for VDI usage, and it's been going well.
We have Mr. Jay Tuss as well. Jay, good morning to you. Thank you for joining.
Good morning. Sorry, I don't have video right now, but I'm an IT guy with the regional engineering firm TD&H Engineering. I'm not actually with IronOrbit yet. I'm still looking at it. So that's what I'm just kind of in today.
Well, thank you for joining, Jay, and we truly appreciate your participation today on this forum. And remember, this forum has nothing to do with IronOrbit customers or not. This is a forum where we aspire actually to get to connect the dots. One of the things that we came to realize over the past couple of years, specifically during the pandemic, is that there's a lot of space, a lot of void out there, specifically in the AEC industry when it comes to information sharing and when it comes to sharing experiences and sharing challenges across the board. It's such a beautiful industry. I'm an engineer. I haven't practiced engineering in more than 15 years now, so I can't claim to remain an engineer anymore. But yes, when we look deeper into that industry, when we try to go out and find a lot of resources or kind of figure out what are the expertise or the common attributes that are across the industry, we found out there's a lot of space that needs to be filled in terms of valuable information, information sharing, experience sharing across the board. So one of the things that we're trying to do with this particular forum is bridge that particular gap and get people to know each other and to understand deeper the issues and concerns and aspirations. And actually future strategies that this particular industry is interested in and cares about the most. And speaking of such, I'd like to open the discussion actually with a very valid question. Coming up with a crazy year like 2020. I mean, it was a crazy year. It doesn't matter how you look at it. It could be in a good way or in a bad way, but I think crazy is a good title to address that particular 2020 year. So the first question that really pops on my mind over here, what's burning right now in the AEC industry, right? So what are you guys trying to figure out come out of this year? Is it more like it should be remain working remote or go back to office? Is it the lessons you learned across the year, the challenges that you came across, how you become better prepared? Or unfortunately, God forbid, we come across a similar experience in the near future or not. What's on your mind? What's burning right now? And I like to address that question specifically to Mike, expand on a little bit here.
Well, I guess recovering from what happened in 2020 is kind of a big thing for us, just to try to come back to a normal. We're still, I don't think we're going to get much more than 30 to 40% of our folks to actually come back into the office. I think this work from home is going to be a much larger event than what we thought it was going to be initially. The people were willing to put up with, say, a Microsoft VPN or a Cisco VPN in the initial part of the pandemic, and now they're realizing that they want much faster performance on their desktops and to do their job in a much better fashion. So I think that's a big one for us. Security is huge for us right now. Just trying to secure all of our every single way into our building, which we used to have fewer and fewer of them. So I kind of see that we're moving more toward a more service-based and more, we're going to become security police officers, basically, to keep all the bad guys out and securing our our network and making sure that we're able to continue on as a business. Those are the big ones for right now that I can think of.
Very interesting. Did you have any security threats back in 2020?
We've had security threats, I mean, every year I've been here. Most of the security threats kind of go around our users more than our perimeter. We do pretty well. It's when something gets through and they click on something that they shouldn't. That's usually when we get into trouble. We can control a lot of other stuff from getting in, but those are issues. We're really not too bad. We're a Pan0 shop too, so we don't have a lot of the issues like a Microsoft file server would have. We're a little bit more secure there, and knock on wood, of course, because I don't want to jinx us, but we've been pretty lucky that way.
It's good to know. Tyler, are you guys facing something similar as well? Is security a concern at pretty much at Alltake right now, or?
Security is always top of mind for us in our industry. I think that's kind of across the board. You hear that a lot now at any group you meet up with in the AEC world. I think it's just something that's table stakes. And if you want certain work, depending on public, private sector, you just need to have certain regulations in place or security infrastructure in place. So, and for me, that's not a huge area for me just because I just don't deal with that every day. But I would say as far as the business side and getting work done, VDI and allowing the VDI infrastructure to handle the kind of workloads we're now trying to push towards it is a greater need. So like 3D is huge, and that's exploding for us. We have a huge section of our work that does modeling and studies, so that requires an enormous workload, and just putting everyone on VDI is proving to be a challenge, and just making it more efficient to work that way. People still often will try to use their local machines, which is, as we all know, very inefficient, especially through VPN, especially on the million other factors that go into trying to consider there. I would say a great portion of IT's future thinking is also on what happens after the remote work 2.0 or whatever you want to call it after the pandemic, I think knowledge sharing and information sharing is going to be much harder. And the way, because we're in engineering services, well, we're in engineering services, but I think most people here might be, we are only as strong as the people that create and share that knowledge and send it out to clients. So how do we foster that kind of thinking and sharing now that we're all in different offices, remote, no one's coming back in? That's a challenge that we're thinking about right now.
I'm a little bit curious, are there any data regulatory bodies or compliance kind of requirements specific for the AEC industry that you guys are aware of? I don't recall going through one in particular like other industries, right?
I would say for us, we try to adhere as close as we can to SOC 2 Type 2. We're not certified or anything. We've gone through the whole, like, someone's come in, done assessments for us, but we try to adhere as close to that as we can. A lot of we work in the energy sector quite often, so they have pretty high regulations, and as a consultant to the energy sector, they, some of those fall upon us as well.
Exactly, yes, because I remember, Mike, we had customers back in the days who had projects specifically for the US government, and they required for a specific compliance. You guys go through any of similar situations before?
We don't do a whole lot of Department of Defense or even US government work per se. Most of ours is state and local governments, but bigger communities are starting to have more compliance that they want to know our security infrastructure and upfront. They want to know what our disaster recovery plan, what assessments we went through, what we've done to make sure that we're secure. So we have ran across that. It's becoming more prevalent now with our customers. It's the bigger communities: Milwaukee, Madison, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Des Moines, things like that. But the majority of ours are smaller, but it's going to bleed into those smaller communities eventually. It's going to get there. So we just have to be in front of it. And that's what we're doing. Sorry.
No worries. I just wanted to throw out there, I think from my past experiences, the number one thing regarding security was actually more related to just like IP, because of the file sizes and stuff like that you use. If you're working a lot on laptops and things like that remotely, people are typically copying those files over locally that resides on that laptop. When that laptop gets left on a plane, a train, God knows where, you have no idea where that stuff is going. And keeping all of that information in the data center in a centralized location so that people can connect from whatever they want has always been sort of the biggest security issue that I've seen in this space.
Very interesting. Jimmy, speaking of which, and going back to 2020, besides the I've been following your ticker, and besides the stock value of NVIDIA that doubled or tripled last year, how are things at NVIDIA actually? What are you guys? What's your observations of the past year, and what's your plans for the coming one?
We really didn't change focus based on any of this. We had always seen a remote workforce coming. If you look at a lot of analysts and stuff like that, they'll say that this past year has actually accelerated the work from home movement that was inevitably going to happen by, some say, 5 to 10 years. So we've always been working towards giving capability of working remotely with a desktop-like experience being key. People have been working on VDI and working remotely for years. It's just a lot of industries like the AEC space, for instance, because of a lot of what they use, the tools that they use that require GPU acceleration, that require high-end graphics, it wasn't possible on your sort of traditional configurations. So, I mean, we've definitely invested a lot in development because we know that space so well. We come from powering those big workstations that were under your desk traditionally, and now we're just moving that sort of resource into the data center.